Hello. If you're here because of the animatic video that I made yesterday, welcome. And if you're new here, hello. Also welcome. Because of the unexpected views that I've got from the lore of the Archons, I I felt like I give you guys a cliffhanger a little bit, or like I just left you guys hanging on the lore a little bit. You guys just knew that there's like a godlike being ruling over the land without knowing the land itself, and I'm here to tell you guys a little bit of the land itself. So this world is called Gaian. That's Geian. I've built this world for like I guess a year. It's not consistent, but it's from last year. So it's also based on a novel that I made. Then I haven't really continued much consistently because I've been really busy with competitions in school. But anyways, there are currently five nations ruling, not ruling, I guess there are in the world of Gaian. So the first one, so in the D&D, you start from the first nation, which is called Sophia. It's like Sophia but like with a V, so it's a Sophia. It's called the land of inventions and knowledge, which is basically so it's why it's like that is because the first people who ruled there really liked then the concept of ruling with knowledge as like a main point of people's daily lives there. So one of the first schools was invented in Sofia. And then the second nation that you would go to, or my friends would go to, is called Yue Guang. It is a nation of love and recollection. It is named that because the long time ago, a king who wanted to, who was well loved by the nation, and he was afraid of dying, so he tried to send some of his servants and monks to find a pill of immortality. And of course, that doesn't exist in this world. Immortality by itself doesn't really exist in this world. So by then, he tries to find another way to really gain immortality. And one of them being immoral by people's memories. So he instructed to build some statues that really shows his achievements throughout his reign, and by then people would remember him. People would look at the statue and say that, oh, that's the king that we all loved. And then also people also started to really continue the trend, not really continue the trend. People would start doing that, and then it continues to be a trend. Be okay. People continue it, and then it becomes a trend, and people would then do it to remember your loved one whom died, to really to really find balance. People say that it's to find balance in the world by doing by building statues to remember uh, loved ones. Anyways, and then the third nation would be a Merilite. So in this nation, it is ruled by two kingdoms. It's co-directed. I guess you can say that it's these two nations. No, two nations. These two kingdoms control this one nation. So there's the kingdom of Luna Crepusculare, and then the nation, and then the king. I'm sorry, the kingdom of Alba Risole. These two kingdoms control the nation together. They coexist, but they're currently in kind of a thin ice. There have been some rumor of civil war. So this nation is all about art. So long ago, the people there thought about like how people are a bit soulless. So to find their own soul and themselves, they'd have to practice art. It doesn't matter if they're bad at it or they're like, I guess, not good at it. It doesn't. The most important thing about the art itself is that they're passionate about it. So people dance, they paint, or just anything that is considered art to really find the balance in themselves and the world. So these two kingdoms practices they focus on different kinds of art. The Luna Crepusculare focuses on the tongue, while the Albaresole focuses on the body. And then the fourth nation is called Kalapati. So Kalapati is a nation of dreams and souls. People go to this nation to find solace, to really repent in a way, if you can say that. So this nation is kind of doesn't really have like a president, a king, or a actual ruler. But there is an emperor who's not actively ruling. So his name is Gilgamesh. He's not actively ruling, not for a long time. He ruled for I guess 200 years and then stopped. After that, so in this nation, this is where people would also find their souls and themselves to try and reconnect with the world in a spiritual way. So people go to Amerilete to connect to the world in a physical way, in an art form, while people who go to Kalapati tries to reform themselves, try to connect with the world in a spiritual way. There is not really that much religion that really influences the nation. People just go there because of because of their own ideas that I've mentioned in the last videos. So it's much more general than it seems. And then the last nation is called Elysion. It is the nation of war and debt. And I haven't to be fair with the people watching and my friends, I am not gonna tell too much information about the nation because it's supposed to be a secret. That nation by within itself is closed. It's isolated and will only accept tradings. But by then, the tradings are in a small amount and you can't really exchange information to that nation. So there's that. So from all of these nations, they make up the world of Kayan and the D&D. And then after all those nations, I want to talk about how the D&D works, how the lore, the premise of the lore. So my friends have made their own OCs, and in these OCs, they woke up in a dream, like a very very vivid dream, and then they met, uh, like a kind of godlike being that says that claims that they rule order itself and says that there is a foreign object that fell thousands of years ago called the Tritanium, and it's a kind of meteorite. The foreign object is a meteorite that that fell between all those nations, so like all in the right in the middle of all these nations, not like middle. Let's say in the sea that is exactly in the middle of all those nations. And little chunks of it, 5 chunks of it, flew to each nation. And because of its unstable and chaotic energy, people are, no, the godlike being says that if it fell into the wrong hands, its chaotic energy could really be taken advantage in a bad way. It could be a weapon or worse, I guess. And so those five travelers or 5 people that are chosen in the dream are to be sent into each nation and in the order that I've said before. And so from each nation there will be challenges to get these titanium chunks. So these titanium chunks are usually described as sharp and very vividly red, and sometimes with spark and energy that I guess it looks like a ticking bomb. And the only known nation to use it as an energy source is currently in Elysium, but there's not much information going on. And it is only a rumor because other nations don't even know the existence of the gem itself. It's not a common knowledge. It is more like a government thing, I guess. And so these chunks of gem could create a problem. So what they're trying to do is that the waters in Gaian neutralizes these chunks into a more sustainable energy and not more chaotic. It could be a future to renewable energy because these gems are still chaotic, they're still quite foreign. And so it takes a really long time. Let's say like 200 more years or 500 more years to really neutralize it, and they would allow people to actually use it. But by then, since it isn't common knowledge about the gems, so the divine beings have to interfere in a way. But because archons don't really exist in the physical form, they're in a separate realm. They'd have to send out someone to really interfere. So by then, it also creates another creation called the heralds. So these the heralds are the right hand of archons. They're they're given a blessing of a power that's not really too powerful, but they are well aware more powerful than the normal people. So by then, the party will go through the 5 nations to get these chunks of gems, and then they would return it to the ocean or to the place that it fell off. And by then, that's all the common knowledge from the lore. I guess if you want more, you can comment what kind of lore you want to know, or you can check out the website and ask there. Not ask, I mean like really see the lore there. Oh, thanks.